Hello dear friends, that day has finally arrived. My course on preventing blunders in chess got published today. In this promo video, I will show you why I created that course, and I will show you some instructive positions to highlight my method in stopping blunders in chess. First of all, this position, that's from a real grandmaster game. White to play, how should white respond to this check on e7? Okay? Please choose among options and please avoid the blunder that happened in the actual game. First, we always begin with why. I will list you the basic arguments why I created this course. Argument number one, the real chess begins if and only if you stop cruelly blundering your pieces. Real depth and beauty of chess begins once your moves become consistently safe. Argument number two, most amateur games are lost due to unsafe moves rather than lack of strategic understanding, opening preparation, or endgame nuances. Argument number three, chess is arguably the most cruel sport ever. A single mistake at any point in the game can cause you to lose that position. Argument number four, most chess players try to improve their ceiling while they don't work to raise their chess floor. Working on the blunder check process is arguably the most important thing you can do for your chess to raise your floor. Argument number five, despite the fundamental importance of the blunder check process, there are very few resources, books, and courses written on this very subject. Now, once we are finished with whys, let's talk about how. How did I create this course and what am I teaching you in this course? Okay, this check, white player unfortunately played the move king f4 and they got mated after the move g5. White lost the game due to this unforced blunder king f4, which allowed a checkmate in one. So we always start with letter C in our checklist. As a result of my next move, am I allowing a devastating check for my opponent? That question cannot be followed blindly. That question becomes much more important when you see that your king is exposed or limited in mobility. If your king is stuck in the center, has no pawn cover, or running short of squares like this, the king has no mobility whatsoever on f4, then letter C becomes even more crucial that you must ask yourself. So here's my definition of a blunder. Your very move allows a winning tactic for the opponent. Your very move changes the board that allows a winning tactic for your opponent. Here, if white didn't go king f4, they would not lose. It's white's very move that causes a defeat. This definition of blunder is very different than the other crucial process in chess, namely seeing the threats behind the opponent's last move. Imagine black played the move rook e7 in this position, and the most important question in chess is, as you know, what would they play if I don't make a move right now? And you tell me, which threat is white facing right now as a result of rook e7? Yes, folks, now you're facing a checkmate in one threat with g5, which white must react. And the best move for white is rook c6, and you're stopping g5 checks, and once the king goes to g7, your king improves. It's white who is completely winning with an extra bishop. But you see, these two processes are separate. This process, we are looking at seeing the opponent's threat behind the opponent's last move, and you take action accordingly. But in the first position, if you go back to this position, folks, it's your very move that allows a winning tactic to the opponent. These are fundamentally different and yet crucial top processes in chess. Chess calculation has three legs. The first leg is always seeing the threat behind your opponent's last move, right? You always start from this question. Your opponent makes a move. The question is, what would they play if I don't play a move right now? And you see g5 and you take action accordingly. Then comes the second key step in calculation, generating logical candidate moves to choose from. And finally, once you go through these steps, comes the final blunder check process. You have choices, maybe king d2, maybe king d4, maybe king f2, maybe king f4, right? These are our candidate moves in this position. But before you play your final candidate, you have to go for the blunder check process. And that's exactly what this course is tackling. Only in those crucial processes that your very move is allowing a winning tactic for your opponent. And we always start from letter C because checkmate ends the game. It should come first in the hierarchy of things. By the way, folks, when it comes to seeing the threats behind the opponent's last moves like this, rook e7 creates a huge threat of g5 checkmate. I already created a dedicated course that tackle this process. The course is titled My Opponent's Last Move, Identifying Threats, Mistakes, and Misconceptions. That course will deal with this crucially important very first step in chess calculation, and the current blunder check course tackles the final crucial step. Letter C is followed by letter L, which stands for loose pieces and squares. Let me highlight letter L with this position, folks. Should black take on f2 or on b2 in this position? It's black to play. Please choose a safe move and avoid the blunder. Let's begin with the definition of a loose piece, folks. Loose pieces are defined as pieces that has equal number of attackers and defenders. That's my definition in this course. For example, this rook on d2 is a loose piece. It's attacked once, guarded only once by the knight. That knight on e4 is also a loose piece. It's attacked 0 times, guarded 0 times. Which means seeds of tactical distraction might be implanted for black because you're playing with 2 loose pieces. Care is required always in those positions. So, is it rook takes f2 or rook takes b2? What do you think? Folks, if you take on f2 with the rook, can you visualize that position, please? You're still creating 2 loose pieces on the board. That rook is still a loose piece. It's hit once, guarded only once by the knight, and the knight remains to be a loose piece on e4 if you take on f2. Now, you become a scientist. You try to find the best move for the opponent that can potentially refute your idea of rook takes f2. How do they remove the defender, folks? When you have 2 pieces and one of them is tied down in guarding the other loose piece, you must be extra careful. You're allowing the move bishop c2. Now they are hitting the loose knight on e4. The knight cannot move because otherwise they will capture your rook on f2. Please visualize it, folks. It's not rocket science. It's not deep calculation. It's about the habits of the right mindset and thought processes that I'm fixing in this course. Rook takes f2 is a terrible blunder because after bishop c2, you have no response to save both pieces. So after bishop c2, white is winning material, folks. If you play f5, they simply take, followed by take. The game is over. And after bishop c2, if you take on g2, well, this skewer doesn't work for you because they defend their rook on c1 and they are winning with an extra bishop. On the contrary, if you take on b2 with the rook is still a loose piece on b2. Care is required. And also the knight is loose on e4. But there is no way for white to create double attack on these 2 loose pieces. At least this knight is no longer tied down in guarding the other loose rook. And that's a huge difference because even if this knight is attacked, the knight is free to move and you can't grab my rook on b2 on the next turn. You see, we develop our intuition to spot loose pieces and carefully searching for all the best tactical resources for the opponent to either create double attack or removing the guard tactic. I also show you the connections between loose pieces and basic tactical patterns, right? They're always connected. Another striking example to highlight the next letter in the checklist, letter A, folks. It stands for alignments because most tactics emerge from certain alignments on the board. So if your very move is creating an alignment, then you must be very careful. MVL versus Gelfand 2010 Blitz game. White to move. White right now has an extra pawn. Plus, white has a much safer king. Black is facing back rank issues. This queen is tied down on the loose rook on e8. And white has many winning moves. Maybe you can start the video and tell me a couple of winning ideas. Even queen b3 is winning. The idea is to, well, make this rook a hanging piece if the queen takes on b3, and then you're winning the resulting position with this beautiful tactic. Followed by rook d8. You see, black is completely lost. They are having back rank problem. Queen b3 is a beautiful tactic, folks, because the queen needs to keep guarding the rook on e8. And if they play the move queen c6, then you play the move queen f7, hitting that rook twice, and this game is completely finished. It's actually mate in 5 by force from this position. If they take on d8, nothing changes, you're winning. So white has several winning moves in this position, folks. That's the bottom line. But in the actual game, MVL played the move queen a8. Please visualize it, folks. Queen a8. What is going on from a tactical perspective? Let's even start with the loose piece concept, folks. Can you see? Queen a8 creates a loose rook on d1. That rook is now attacked once and guarded only once by the rook on d8. Your very move changes the situation and creates a loose piece on the board. Plus, maybe more importantly, queen a8 creates another alignment on the 8th rank. Can you see? Very important pieces are aligned on certain diagonals, files, or ranks. We are talking about alignments, which allow chess tactics. In this section, I will have a deep dive in how alignments work, seeing fianchetto pieces, seeing sniper pieces, starting from something simple all the way to the end with high complexity. Okay, imagine queen a8, folks. Can you tell me what Gelfand played to punish that blunder? Yes, folks, very simple move. Queen takes d1, and if the rook captures my queen, then I'm taking your queen on a8, and black emerges with a clear extra rook. Please visualize it, folks. Queen a8, simple move, queen takes d1 check. It comes to the check, that's important. And if the king moves, I take the rook for nothing. If you take my queen, I take your queen, and the game is over. What a swing, right? White had a competitive winning position with a single blunder. This game is lost. This game is lost, and actually MVL resigned in this position. Also notice the mindset of wishful thinking, right? White only focuses on the good things behind their move. He thinks, yes, the queen puts pressure on the rook on e8, I'm exploiting the alignment, I'm exploiting the back rank problems. If you have to take me, then the game is over, of course. He expects resignation, right? He expects black to resign after queen e8. In fact, it's white who resigns on the next turn. Thus, blunder check process is arguably the most crucial chess skill that you have to improve to raise your floor in a cruel game like chess. Also in the course, folks, as you can see, we see a combination of different letters. L and A are combined in this blunder. As a result of my next move, I'm aware that I'm creating a loose piece. Would maybe help white notice this blunder, right? Your very move turns a protected rook. It's a protected rook right now because it's guarded twice, attacked only once by the queen. But your very move is making this rook a loose piece suddenly. Hit once, guard only once. In conjunction with the alignment on the 8th rank, this game is totally lost. I'm showing you how chess tactics operate because the final point of this course is you will transfer the skill you get to an attacking context. Once you truly understand how chess tactics emerge, then this will also make you a great tactician. You will start punishing the opponent's blunders. Let's go through the letter M, folks. M stands for mobility restrictions. As a result of my next move, am I restricting the mobility of my piece? Please blunder check the move knight takes h3, folks. Does it work? Does it work for black? That's my question. Folks, you know, knights on the rim are usually dim, so when you place your knight to the corner, care is required. You're entering into their camp, but maybe there is no return. And it's up to you to decide whether there is a return. Okay? Knight takes h3. What is the best move for white at that moment, right? Become a scientist. You must become a scientist in chess to spot blunders. Yeah, you're actively searching for counter evidence from the world that can refute knight h3. Yes, folks, notice that on h3, the knight only has the g5 safe retreat square. If your piece only one safe squares to move into, that's already a signal for you to carefully check for letter M for the blunder check checklist, folks. And of course, they will play the move, very simple move f4, because you already mentioned, you already spotted that this was the only safe route for the knight to escape. Thus, white stops that with f4, and suddenly your knight has become a trappable piece, captured in 2 moves after king g2, right? If you play g5, white should not take your pawn because then the knight survives, but they should play the move king g2 and your knight is still lost on h3. So as a result of your very move, folks, as a result of your very move, you created a trappable piece. You trapped your own piece with that move. That's a different kind of tactical operation and tactical pattern. That's why it deserves a separate chapter in this course as well. And finally, letter P in our checklist, clamp checklist. pass pawns, folks. As a result of my very move, am I creating an unstoppable pass pawn to my opponent? Because endgames are usually decided by such breakthroughs, pass pawns becoming unstoppable, so you just simply cannot allow, as a result of your very move, an unstoppable pass pawn, okay? So, g6 is on the board. Please, it's black to play, folks. How do you take that pawn on g6? In terms of very first question in calculation, the question is, what would my opponent play if I don't make a move right now? Of course, you see it, right? They will take on h7 and they are promoting to a queen. So you must react to this move. But maybe your very move will change something that allow a pawn breakthrough. And that's how blunders happen in chess. Please take a stock, stop the video, tell me the only correct solution here. Folks, this involves knowledge of some key pawn breakthrough patterns in pawn endgames. That's also what I will be teaching you in this course. Okay? Well, the correct move is f takes g6. You're a great player. Why? Because you're anticipating the breakthrough attempt h6, because that's a major way for white to remove the pawn that is getting in the way of their f pawn. But here the good thing is this, folks. Yes, they created this pass pawn on f6, but your king is very close in dealing with that pawn. That pawn is very close to the center of the board, and your king can deal with this pawn. Black is winning. Notice, after f takes g6, if they capture, nothing changes. Take, black will win the pawn and win the game eventually. Okay? So after f takes g6, the most dangerous attempt for white to win is the breakthrough attempt with h6. Now you must take that pawn, otherwise they will take and queen. And here, of course, f6 is the most dangerous try, but king e6, beautiful 5-ply calculation, and black is winning. Now, please go back and tell me what could be wrong with the move h takes g6. Please blunder check the move h takes g6, folks. Well, now you'll have the same breakthrough, namely f6 followed by h6, and their pawn is far away. That's an outside pass pawn that your king cannot deal with. I will let you visualize that attempt, folks, because you must always do it in the actual game. That's a good visualization training as well that we are doing in this course. Short calculations, not that deep, short but crispy blunder check calculations are waiting for you. Okay? So, h takes g6, f6. They want to take on g7 and win. Thus, you must take that pawn. But then this h5 pawn becomes unstoppable. There is no more a g7 pawn or an h7 pawn that is getting in the way of that pawn. And they will simply push h6. Rule of the square, folks. Your king cannot enter the square of the h6 pawn. This means that pawn is promoting. Let me show you how it operates. Right? Big blunder because of f6. Typical breakthrough idea in the pawn endgame. You must take, comes h6. And you see the rule of the square of the pawn. The king cannot enter inside the square. And that pawn is simply promoting way earlier than your pawns. And you're lost. Folks, I spent almost 1 year to prepare this course. I talked to several chess master scientists in my podcasts about the blunder check process, checklists, confirmation biases, cognitive biases, visual system limitations that causes chess blunders. I'm super excited about the impact of this course. That's my biggest work so far. I'm extremely hopeful about the impact of this course on you. That's for beginners, intermediate players, and even for advanced players. I got excellent feedback in the alpha and beta testing process from players from diverse levels. They enjoyed the clamp method that I created to reduce the number of blunders. I also talk about checklists, how they should be introduced in a practical game so our working memories don't get overwhelmed. Dedicated quiz chapters on 4 different difficulty levels. I'm also giving you a chance to stay on the sweet spot of desirable difficulty. You give your best to the positions. Once you do it, you should be generally successful maybe around 70% of the time. That's a desirable difficulty. So I will also set the course so that you can always stay on the difficult level that actually helps you improve your game. Most players work hard to increase their very ceiling in chess, knowing that top-notch opening idea on move 25 or really digging deep into some obscure endgames. But arguably, raising the floor, making safe moves is much more important and has much better impact on your chess strength. I even recorded 27 hours of video content for this course, folks, because I truly believe in the instructional value and video scaffolds for this course. In the video, I dig deep into every single position, explain the right thought process, how clamp checklist can be applied to each and every position, and I put my heart and soul into video content without spoon feeding you directly, always actively engaging you just like I do in my YouTube videos. I'm really believing in the strength of the video as well for this course. Now please go ahead folks and click the link on this video description to have a basic overview of the course, watch the peek inside and see how you like it. As a coach, I did it to help my own students as well. Across the years of chess coaching, I always felt the need of such a comprehensive course that only tackle for this hugely important process that should be studied independently from everything else. And finally, I'm happy about the final product. Waiting for your feedback. Please share your victories, share how this course has impacted your blunders, and I will improve my courses accordingly. Now it's your turn to put the clamps on those blunders. See you.